There are many possible ways of handling an aggressive situation when our needs are not met. Today, Mara Gorel and myself, Angelika Tupolsky, will be discussing these methods pertaining to personal conflict styles, which can be found on pages 458 to 467 in our Looking Out, Looking In communications textbook.
The textbook defines these 5 personal conflict styles: non-assertive behavior, direct aggression, passive aggression, indirect communication, and assertion. We will be defining and referring to these throughout our presentation. Before you choose a personal conflict style, it is important to realize that the following factors can affect your choice and the outcome of the conflict. These factors are, first, the extent of your relationship with the person. For example, in our scenario, it is a relationship between a boss and an employee where one clearly holds more authoritative power over the other. Second, the situation. For example, in this situation, a boss is asking an employee to perform quality control on a new analyzer so the lab can start running samples. This situation calls for a professional conflict style as it is set in the workplace. We must also consider the personality of the other person so we can communicate effectively with them. For example, if you know someone's more sensitive, you would not use an aggressive approach. The last thing you need to decide is what your goal is. Do you care more about the person getting upset with you, or would you rather accomplish what needs to get done? Let's go through the conflict styles and see how the outcome changes using each technique in our scenario.
Non-assertive behavior is the inability or unwillingness to express our emotions, thoughts, or feelings in a conflict. This style is commonly due to a lack of confidence, communication skills, or a mixture of both. It can be accomplished in one of 2 ways, these being avoidance and accommodation. Avoidance is the refusal to confront the situation either physically, by avoiding the other person, or conversationally, by changing the topic or making jokes. Accommodation deals with conflict by submitting to the situation rather than attempting to resolve it. This method puts the other's needs ahead of your own, while you just deal silently with the problem. In this situation, Angie chooses not to bring her issues directly to Mara. Angie knows Mara is stressed and busy with other work. Angie uses the non-assertive behavior conflict method and avoids speaking to Mara, hoping that Mara will get her work done without having to be told.
Direct aggression expresses criticism and demands that attack the individual on the basis of character, competence, physical appearance, etc. It can be accomplished using swearing, teasing, threats, and the like. It can negatively affect the receiver's self-esteem and affect the relationship because you are making your needs more important than others, causing resentment. It is commonly viewed as an incompetent conflict style since it doesn't solve anything and everyone usually just gets upset. As an example of direct aggression in our scenario, Angie is going at Mara about the result because she knows Mara lacks initiative and thinks telling her off will help her get the result finished. She may say things such as, "You're so incompetent and stop wasting time." This will get Mara defensive and unlikely to help out Angie.
Passive aggression is delivered in an indirect manner that allows the sender to avoid the immediate blowout. The sender tries to maintain a facade of kindness by not confronting the receiver directly, but rather using a different vehicle for communication, such as a friend or a coworker. However, this style has many shortcomings because the message may not be relayed to the intended person, or the receiver may be offended by your lack of sincerity and will refuse to do anything about it. This style is found to be counterproductive in the long run, because even though you dodged the first bullet, the other person can retaliate, leaving you to deal with a bigger situation. In this situation, Angie chose to tell Mosin about the problems she is having with Mara, in hopes that Mosin will pass on the message. Mosin does relay the message, however, Mara gets upset and wonders why Angie couldn't come to her directly. She refuses to do anything until Angie comes and confronts her about the issue herself.
Indirect communication is expressing your needs in a subtle, hinting way so as to save face for the recipient. This style avoids embarrassing the recipient. However, if we hint too subtly, they may fail to notice our hints altogether, and our goal will remain unaccomplished. This is the most common way people make requests because no one really gets hurt. However, if a message is important enough, we cannot risk it not getting across. As an example of indirect communication in our scenario, Angie is casually walking by Mara every 5 minutes in hopes that her presence will remind Mara she is waiting for the results. This backfires as Mara is so busy with her other work, she hardly notices Angie there.
Assertion means directly expressing your needs, feelings, and thoughts without attacking the receiver's dignity. This style tries to resolve the problem without making either person upset. Even though this is the best approach for dealing with conflict, it does not always work, but you are able to maintain your self-respect because you are addressing your own needs. Since the process doesn't always work, you need to decide whether to change to a new conflict style or to let it go because the conflict is not worth the effort. Knowing Mara's personality style, Angie finally uses the assertive method to discuss her problems openly with Mara. Angie is able to get her point across without hurting Mara's feelings. Mara is now aware of the situation and is willing to change, and Angie has put her needs first, putting both parties at ease with the situation.
The best conflict style for this example was assertion. Mara didn't feel threatened, and the boss got what she wanted. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and encourage you to apply what we have taught you in future conflicts. Thank you. Have a safe summer.